Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I literally can't believe I'm done with my sophomore year already, which is like half of my college life. So just like the tradition, I want to make a video talking about all the works I've done this semester. So compared to last semester, I'm managing my time a lot better and also maintaining a good balance between work and life outside of studio. Not only because my professor is very chill and gives us plenty of working time on each project, the critique is also less serious and it feels more like a casual conversation between the whole class. I also learned from the experience that I cannot work in a late night. It's just not worth it. So instead this semester I painted with my flow a lot more, follow my heart and care less on each painting. That just released a lot of stress and pressure, so I know I can make bad paintings and like who cares. Another big difference this semester is the drawing and painting studio is taught by the same professor, so a lot of the projects are mixed up together. And at the same time, I also took an elective course from the graphic design department. That was one of the most interesting courses I've ever took. It's called exhibit design. We get to plan, research, design exhibition for 3 projects, and at the end get to build actual models. With all of those being said, let's jump right into the artworks. I'll start with the works I did in painting/drawing studios. The first 2-week assignment is to redo a painting based on another famous painting, and the painting I picked is Nighthawks by Hopper because I like the way he defined loneliness and how he showed emotion through the color. It was maybe the first time I didn't use any reference photos during the whole process, so I painting from my memory or work based on my small drawings and notes. This method challenged me to take risks and not to focus too much on the detail. I played a lot with the colors and had a lot of fun while painting those swirls and mess with the perspective, which was really fun. Next, this painting is the classic assignment, which is the self-portrait, but the fun part of this one is we need to paint ourselves working on a painting inside this whole frame. So I did a really tiny drawing of myself working on my last semester's final, and the size is probably like this big. I actually took really short time working on this one, but everything just came out naturally. And I love how playful it turned out. And this assignment also reminded me that I can always explore different modes of painting. I don't need to stick with just the super realistic stuff all the time. I can also do more abstract stuff or caricatures. Next is another assignment that I originally hated but turned out surprisingly good. It's the sketchbook that I showed in the previous vlogs that happened during the spring break. I traveled in Barcelona at the time and brought that handmade sketchbook with me during the whole trip. So there were several times I just randomly stopped inside a museum or during the meal and took out my sketchbook and started to work. I have to admit, the process is a bit time consuming, but that also gives me opportunity to finally make an artsy diary recording the whole trip. Later, we also had a few more smaller assignments. Those 4 are some studies I did to explore different grounds. Some of it is, I believe, rapid skin glue or the basic gesso, and some I used acrylic for the base. I also tried to keep some textures from the base and let it show through. This painting is another mixed media piece, and I wanted to recreate the dinner table from my dorm and back in my home. So playing with the concept of overlapping memories again. Because I always associate food with home and it was such a big portion of my identity. When I was in home, I would eat what my mom cooked for the family, and now in school I would cook similar Chinese dishes, but again it tastes different and it forms new memory. I used raw canvas for this piece, so I didn't do any gesso. I want to keep this rough texture in the background because it reminds me of the tabletop. And I also sewed some pieces of stocking. I love this material because it's half transparent and you can sort of see through. Lastly, the biggest painting this semester, which we also get around like 2 months to complete. For this piece, I want to explore the relationship between me and my sister. I refer to one phrase in Chinese culture. It says, kid is the pearl that the parents hold. So I want to show how me and my sister are those 2 pearls inside this shell-like structure. I also incorporated the Chinese animal symbol. So each year corresponds with one animal. I'm the dog and she's the tiger. So you can sort of see how I designed the hat that those 2 figures wear on their head. In the background, I added those banners, and each little square is inspired by the memories that we share. So again, play with those narrative elements that I did last semester for the final painting. Like on those tiles in bathroom, I added little narrative patterns. Besides that, I am also playing with different colors on the show, and I wanted to keep the swirly patterns. So I wouldn't say this painting is my proudest piece this semester, but I think I improved a lot on the mindset. I'm not afraid when dealing with a huge blank canvas, and I'm not afraid of messing things up. My professor also recommended me to keep working on this piece. I agree that I can be more crazy about it, but for now I'm also feeling okay just to leave it aside and come back to it in the future.
I realized I have two more stuff I forgot to talk about. Both are case studies based on the big painting. I was exploring how bodies would evolve and change during pregnancy, and also just the general concept of growing up as fetus.
Now onto the exhibit design projects. We only had 3 big projects the whole semester. The first project is to design an exhibition for an architect, and the site is a location near the river. So I picked Momoya Kajima because I loved how she uses space and windows to make the architecture blend into the city. At first I built 2 sketch models, and I ended up picking the more simple one with staircase. The first floor incorporates a window-like structure and a bench where people can sit down, rest, learn about the architect and exhibition, and enjoy the city view. When you go up the stairs, I designed a platform for people to look at the river. On the other side, you see 3 window-like structures facing the neighborhood. The use of window also brings some open air and natural lighting. Outside of this wall structure are 3 photos of Kajima's architecture works, so people can learn about that. The second project, which I was very excited about, is an art exhibition. The theme I picked is artworks from Chinese Song Dynasty. The stories I included are paintings, apparels, furniture, ceramics, and shadow puppetry. Because I think there's some iconic art during that time period. Then I think about the layout and flow of the exhibition and built this roof and columns that resembles traditional Chinese temple. The whole layout is also very symmetrical because symmetry is a central idea in Chinese philosophy. One challenge is I want to print the title of the exhibition on this half-transparent fabric, and it kept messing up, and I ended up going to a print shop in graphic design building and asked the monitor to help me, which ended up pretty good. It looks really light and it allows the natural lighting to go inside the whole building. The fun part of this project is I get to build so many miniatures. Like I 3D printed the ceramic pieces and the furniture setup, and I cut the shadow puppetry prints. So when I take the photograph, everything looks very real. Also, that reminds me of my dollhouse projects I did last winter semester. I think I'm pretty good at making those hand-built crafts and props stuff. Lastly is the animal exhibit. The animal that I received is impala, which is a prey living in savanna area. The challenge in this project is I need to organize the exhibit in few sections, and there are so many stories that I want to tell. The flow is also hard to manage because I added a big skull structure in the middle, and I want the audiences to go around, look around the information on the wall first, and then enter the skull. So I ended up putting the title in a slanted direction so people will naturally turn right. The first section talks about impala's life cycle. Another detail is I made all signs in a bubbly structure because it matches with the graceful characteristic of impala. The next 2 panels explain who are the predators and what they want from impala, which is like the meat and also the horns. I also included some tree trunk like structures displaying images or screens to the audiences, so trying to include different ways of showing signs. Then you walk past a diorama showing the habitats of this animal. They live both near the river and around the grassland area, and I 3D printed life-size impala model. Over here is a place for people to sit and rest. Finally, the big section inside this skull structure talks about the body anatomy, how impala runs and jumps to escape, and its unique teeth structure. My professor recommended me to use this construction board to build the skull because it feels very light and neat. The horn was another detail that I took quite some time to figure it out, but it ends up looking good. That was so much information, but what I want to say is I learned so much new stuff in this course. For example, I learned how to design the flow of the exhibition, topography, signs, lighting, textures of materials, and just in general how to show image and text to audiences. So very fun and useful, highly recommended. I also think this class is really helpful for my future career because I want to work in art museum in the future, so that gives me a lot more knowledge and experience. That's basically everything what I want to share for the artworks I created this semester. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it brings you some inspiration. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.